This is Syllabrew. I'll take a few words, define them clearly, talk about how people actually use them, and give you example sentences so they have a better chance of sticking. Today's words are cursory, salient, pragmatic, apocryphal, and obfuscate. Cursory. Cursory means quick, shallow, or not very detailed. A cursory look at something means you glanced at it, but you did not study it carefully. A cursory review may catch obvious problems, but it probably will not catch subtle ones. A cursory explanation may give the basics, but not enough depth to fully understand the issue. The word is useful when you want to say that something was done too quickly or without enough attention. For example, after a cursory look at the report, she realized the numbers needed a much closer review. Another example, he gave the contract only a cursory reading, which turned out to be a mistake. Salient. Salient means most important, most noticeable, or most relevant. If you are talking about the salient point, you are talking about the point that matters most. The salient details are the details people should not miss. The salient feature of a product, argument, or situation is the thing that stands out and deserves attention. Salient is a useful word when you want to separate what matters from everything else. For example, the most salient issue was not the price, but whether the system would actually work. Another example. She summarized the salient points from the meeting so everyone understood the decision. Pragmatic. Pragmatic means practical, realistic, and focused on what actually works. A pragmatic person may care about ideals, but they also care about results. A pragmatic solution may not be perfect, but it solves the immediate problem. A pragmatic decision is usually based on real-world limits like time, money, energy, or available information. This word is useful when you want to describe someone who is not just thinking theoretically. They are thinking about what can actually be done. For example, the team took a pragmatic approach and fixed the biggest problem first. Another example, she wanted a beautiful design, but she also had to be pragmatic about the budget. The fourth word is a bit of a tongue twister. Apocryphal. Apocryphal means widely told, but probably not true, or at least not reliably proven. An apocryphal story may sound convincing because people repeat it often. It may even contain a lesson or a bit of truth, but the details are uncertain, exaggerated, or impossible to verify. You might hear apocryphal stories about famous people, historical events, business legends, family history, or old sayings that get passed around as fact. For example, the story about the inventor sketching the idea on a napkin may be apocryphal, but people still repeat it. Another example. Many famous quotes online are apocryphal and were probably never said by the person they are attributed to. Obfuscate. Obfuscate means to make something unclear, confusing, or harder to understand. Sometimes people obfuscate by accident because their explanation is messy. Other times they obfuscate on purpose because they do not want the truth to be obvious. Complicated language, vague wording, excessive details, and technical jargon can all be used to obfuscate. The word is especially useful when someone is making an issue harder to understand instead of clearer. For example, the company used complicated language that seemed designed to obfuscate the real cost. Another example, instead of answering directly, he tried to obfuscate the issue with unnecessary details. Today's words were cursory, meaning quick, shallow, or not very detailed. Salient, meaning most important, noticeable, or relevant. Pragmatic, meaning practical and focused on what actually works. Apocryphal, meaning widely repeated but probably not true or not reliably proven. Obfuscate, meaning to make something unclear or harder to understand. Here are all those words in one sentence. After a cursory review, the most salient point was that the supposedly apocryphal story had pragmatic value, even though the speaker kept trying to obfuscate the details. Got a word you've heard but never quite understood? Leave it in the comments, and I may use it in a future Syllabrew episode. Make sure to check the show notes for the spellings of these words. Thanks for listening to Syllabrew. You can support the podcast at buymeacoffee.com/why thank you.